Okay, we will continue our round 3. Last group.
So how about for this presentation about the accounting for COVID-19?
Yes. Today lah kan?
Yes, sir. I share my screen.
14 April. Cryptocurrency. Okay, let's go.
Okay, dah boleh.
Okay, go.
So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good day to all. So today, we will present about the accounting for COVID-19 presented by me, Muhammad Syafiq Reza bin Syaril, and also my members, Muhammad Syarul Hilmi bin Suhaimi. Okay, so next. So the table of content, we will talk about the COVID-19 related run concession amendment to IFRS 16. Next, about the 6 consideration in dealing with COVID-19. Then we talk about the financial impact of COVID-19 and how does COVID-19 impact to the cash flow. And the last one, what's the implication of the COVID-19 business impact. Okay, so next. So I will present about the COVID-19 related run concession amendment to IFRS 16 list. Okay, so based on what we studying about IFRS 16, this is one of the application. This is the standard that has been issued by International Accounting Standard Board, which is IASB, that has been issued about the lease and also the application of the agreement to have a lease. Okay, so in this COVID-19 related about the retrocession amendment, so the IASB amend the standard to provide an optional relief to leases from applying IFRS 16 guidance on lease modification to make an accounting for the retrocession that arise as a direct consequences of the COVID-19 pandemics. Okay, so what the objective is of this amendment is to provide leases that have been granted COVID-19 related run concession by lessor with the practical relief, which still providing useful information about lease to user and the financial statement. Okay, so in this IFRS 16 that has been issued by this IASB during the COVID-19 pandemic area. So the run concession means that you've been granted for the having a modification of what you want to make and during after making agreement. So contohnya lah, hak penyewaan untuk mengambil satu aset besar which is tanah ke, tetapi hanya bayaran yang tertentu dan dalam masa adalah tempoh harian yang telah ditetapkan dari segi agreement. Okay, so next. Okay, so this publication discuss how IFRS 16 that including the recently issued amendment to IFRS 16 leasing guidance is applied to rent concession and is intended to help entities consider the effects of the applying. So in this section, in this publication, there has a 3 section that we need to discuss, which is the first section. Is a section 1, which is we need to discuss about the records, the assessment of the rent concession to apply a lease modification. The second is about leases accounting to determine whether the lessee can apply the amendment to IFRS 16 for COVID-19 related rent concession, and how to account the rent concession that are not accounted for as a lease modification. And the section 3, which is how to account the lessee accounting for the rent concession. Okay, so next. Okay, so section 1 is we need to assessing the whether the rent concession is a lease modification. So about this lease modification is defined in IFRS 16, in which to change the scope of the lease objective or anything about the definition of the lease objective, and the consideration for the lease that was not part of the original terms and conditions. So this to take a lease modification, you need to take as consideration on how the definition of a lease modification is applied to make a rent concession. So it is specifically it is want to know what the change of the scope and consideration for the lease. Okay, untuk modifikasi lease ataupun dipanggil modifikasi panjakan, untuk dia adalah salah satu didefinisikan daripada IFRS 16, yang di mana untuk mengubahkan dari segi skop dari pajakan yang bukannya datang daripada asal usul daripada yang dari segi perjanjian, tetapi untuk melakukan modifikasi pajakan tersebut perlu mengambil pertimbangan boleh ke tak kita apply untuk mengambil hak penyewaan, tetapi paling penting sekali adalah skop dan juga pertimbangan dari segi skop tersebut. Next. Section 2 we will talk about is about the leasing accounting. So as a prior of May 2020 amendment to IFRS 16, so when the rent concession is granted by the lessor, so the lessee would assess whether the rent concession represent a lease modification. So it is if the concession meet the definition of the lease modification, so it will be applied to the requirement for the lease for the accounting for the lease modification. But if the related rent concession granted by the lessor meet its condition to amendment to IFRS 16, so the lessee may choose or elect not to assess whether the COVID-19 concession is a lease modification, and therefore the account of the rent concession as if it's were not lease modification. Okay. So that bila hak penyewaan ni telah di match ataupun telah diserasikan dengan modifikasi pajakan, so lessor boleh memberi penerimaan kepada lessee untuk membuat satu hak penyewaan, tetapi jika lessor dapat perjanjian, tetapi bukannya dari segi definisi, tetapi dari segi keadaan, so dari segi hak penyewaan tidak dapat digunakan, tetapi boleh sebab benda ini perlu ditentukan apa yang cukup perlu didapatkan. Untuk memastikan perjanjian itu dapat diteruskan mengikut masa yang tertentu. Okay, so next. Okay, so the section 3 is a lesser accounting. So from the ISB, it states that the basics of conclusion to amendment that it decide not to provide a lesser with the practical relief for the requisition that occurring as a direct consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic as a reason. First, IFRS 60 does not specify on how the lesser accountant for a change in the lease payment that is not a lease modification. Or any practical, and another one is any practical expedient would adversely affect the comparability of an interaction between the lesser of accounting requirement in IFRS 16 and the related requirement in other standards. Okay, so dari segi section 3, ISB telah menyatakan bahawa basis of the conclusion ni tidak perlu menyediakan kepada lesser dengan adanya practical relief walaupun berada di direct consequences, sebabkan lesser tak ada pun satu penilaian yang tertentu dari segi penukaran lease payment yang bukannya daripada lease modification, which is modifikasi pajakan. Dan satu lagi, apa-apa yang berkaitan practical relief yang daripada lesson ni tidak ada, sebabkan dia affected dari segi comparability, interaction dan juga account dan mendapatkan requirement yang berkaitan dari segi IFRS 16 standard yang biasalah. Okay, so next. Okay, so we will talk about so the next point we will talk about 6 consideration in dealing with the COVID-19 in the accounting. Okay, so next. Okay, there are 6 considerations that needs to be deal with the COVID-19 in the accounting. The first one, we talk about the employees. Second is about customer. Third, liquidity. Fourth is the suppliers and the third party relationship and dependency. The second last, we talk about the communication and transparency. And the last one, we talk about the scenario planning. Okay, so next. Okay, so the first one, we will talk about the employees. So employee is one of the essential that needs to have a very vocal with the support for any change they need to make a work arrangement and performance target in order to fulfill their responsibility to their families and community. So in order to achieve, they also have to achieve and to have a champion of the good citizenship, support, containment, and home working where it's possible. Okay, so in these employees, they need in this accounting, we need to take a consideration of what the business impact, what the impact that needs to be taken, which is the employee. They need to know what is the values of this company that needs to be covered up in order to make a sustainability performance, and also to know what the arrangement of the work that needs to be changed off during the COVID-19 pandemic area. All right. Next. Second is the customer. The customer. What the most important about this customer is they need to appoint the role of the financial institution that become important than ever. So that it is also providing liquidity that support and necessary forbearance to personal customer undergoing temporary difficulties. And also it will be indicates to the financial performance based pandemic risk. Okay, so this customer, it will be essential to be part of this financial analysis to know what this what the basis of the financial management can be used to identify the performance of this financial can be identified on the risk. So to know what the liquidity on it, to know what the asset of the risk, to know what the ratio that there needs to be need, and how to know the asset turnover that needs to be used. Okay, so next. Next one. Okay, good. Okay, so the third is about the liquidity. So in this liquidity, the financial service companies need to thoroughly understand their available capital and liquidity resources and to assess the resilience of this, which is the central banks. So what we need to talk about the central banks. So the central banks need to deliver to make a requirement that which is to deliver the enormous stimulus package in order to offset a larger systemic liquidity on the crunch. So it will bring to on the borrowing cost, but there is a risk that some company will hold cash and open credit lines to keep their business going throughout the crisis. Okay, so in this liquidity, um, the financial institution needs to identify what's what the available of the capital and liquidity resource needs to be maintained, and what to assess of the resilience of this from the bank for the commercial banks, which is the central banks, which is to know the objective of to know the scope of this, which is to deliver the enormous stimulus package and to offset a larger, but like I said, there has a risk to know the cost of the borrowing cost, but to know the cash that will be indicates to the cash and the open credit line to ensure the business can be go on during the crisis. Okay, so next. Okay, the fourth one is the supply relationship and the third party dependency. So the financial service company and their customer had a substantial third party networks vendor, which is including in-person agent networks, outsourcing partners and the technology providers, and so on. So it is also need to regularly assess and monitor these third parties on the information securities, business continuity, and the other risk domains. So the COVID-19 impact forced companies to review the suppliers, which assess most likely to be impacted, which are critical to ongoing business operation, and but they need to urgently mitigate risk posed by the relationship. Okay, so these suppliers, it needs to take a consideration, and the third party also, to know what to allocate outsourcing the parties that need to be involved, and to know they need to know the regular they need to know the regular assess and monitor the third party based information security, business continuity, and the risk domain. So during this COVID-19, like I said, the companies must be allocated and to review the suppliers that need to assess what the critical must be known by the business operation. Okay, so next. So the next one is a communication and transparency. So in this part, financial service company will need to ensure that they are communicating effectively with multiple stakeholders, employees, customers, shareholders, and regulators. So the financial service companies need to regularly assess their digital communication capabilities and how to leverage such capabilities to communicate with the customers and the broader marketplaces. So in this consideration, the financial service need to double tick on it on what the communication is, to know the parties that need to be involved, which is the stakeholder, employers, to ensure the communication that needs to be affected. And also they need to they need to know the assess regularly and in their digital communication capabilities to indicate of what the level can be leveraged such capabilities of communication on the and also involved to the broader marketplace. Next. Okay, the last one is scenario planning. So this scenario consideration needs to understand the significant immediate challenge to society and economies posed by the COVID-19. So using this scenario modeling and contingency planning expertise to help themselves and their customer to make good decision in their of highly volatile operating environment. So in this planning, so this COVID-19 has been affected to a business and the accounting has been enormous in this impact on it. So this consideration need to make a modeling and make us one of the model to know to make ensure the decision of this management and also to the society economics can be covered with a high volatility operating environment. Okay, so that's all for me. I will pass to Shahrukh for his presentation.
Okay, for the next is the financial impact of COVID-19. It is without a doubt that the COVID-19 situation has impacted global market. It is an unprecedented event and many including businesses have been taken by complete surprise with the ways things have been unfolding. So sebagai contoh daripada akibat daripada COVID-19 ni, syarikat penerbangan terpaksa mengurangkan operasi mereka untuk mengelakkan penyebaran wabak COVID-19 dan macam perniagaan kecil seperti agensi pelancongan juga terkesan dan terpaksa ditutup. So below are some of the symptoms and issue our business may face. Okay, first, downward trend in sale, earning and free cash flow. Second is increased inventory, which is leading to obsolescent inventories. And third, increased supply chain risk. Fourth is creditor build up and non-payment of statutory debt. Next is deteriorating customer relationship and increasing risk of bad debt. And lastly, deferred payment of staff salaries. Okay. Next is how will COVID-19 impact cash flow? So cash is king, and even more so in time of crisis. Liquidity will now be at the forefront of a company list of issue due to exceptionally poor trading condition. Given it important, companies should immediately develop a treasury plan for cash management as part of their overall business risk and continuity plan. So this is 6 priority for consideration. First is ensuring robust framework for managing supply chain. So sebagai contoh, syarikat akan mempertimbangkan pembekal yang menghadapi masalah untuk stay mengekalkan supply chain atau tidak dan memastikan barangan dan perkhidmatan diorang berjalan dengan lancar. So second, focus on cash to cash conversion circle. So sebagai contoh dia, diorang perlu meminimumkan keperluan modal kerja. Next is keep financing option open. And then revisit capital investment plan. So macam revisit capital investment plan ni, diorang perlu mempertimbangkan perkara yang perlu dalam tempoh yang terdekat benda yang penting je. Diorang kena fikir macam tu. So next is receivable management, and lastly payable management. Okay. So next is COVID-19 business impact. There are 5: customer, financial, customer, supply chain, people and technology. So first is financial. For the top challenge for financial issue include cash flow, liquidity, delays in receivable and decline in revenue. So action being taken, nearly half of all companies surveyed indicated that cost-cutting measures are priority. Other include cash flow management, reprioritizing of business activity and investment, and adjusting wage or applying for wage subsidy. Okay, for the intervention needed, which is initiative which reduce financial burden of provide relief to loan and obligation are priority. So next is COVID-19 business impact for customer. Top challenges is across large and SME company, nearly half of the respondents have cited that a fall in demand is their key challenge. So action being taken. Half of the respondents note that frequent communication with customer is key to planning and managing customer relationship. So intervention needed. Over a quarter of large companies cited change in government policy as the most important assistance required, which include tax break, lower interest rate for fee waiver for SME, relaxing uh, MCO restriction is key. So sebagai contoh untuk COVID-19 business impact ni untuk customer, kerajaan telah melakukan moratorium untuk pinjaman kenderaan supaya ditangguhkan bayaran selama 6 bulan lah untuk customer. So next is technology. Top challenges is nearly a third of large and listed companies third communication with customer and suppliers as a major challenge, while SME highlight work from home connectivity as a key issue. Action being taken, company are upgrading their technology and system and ensuring employee can connect. Intervention needed. Improve connectivity is the priority need of business, followed by financial support in transitioning to technology-enabled process and system. So sebagai contoh untuk teknologi, company semasa PKP so tak boleh keluar, so company telah menggunakan platform work from home untuk bekerja daripada rumah supaya tak payah keluar daripada rumah. So untuk supply chain, challenges, large and least companies cited delay in receiving supplies as the main supply chain challenge, while SME not delay in fulfillment and delivery as their major challenge. Action being taken, most large and least company are engaged in keeping supplier informed through dialogue season on supply chain issue. For SME, payment and order have been deferred whilst requesting for discount from supplier. Intervention needed. Most companies are requesting for the waiver of cross-border and service tax along with additional credit facility with bank. So sebagai contoh, company perlu mengurangkan kos kos pembelanjaan untuk business activity secara berperingkat. So last is people. Top challenge, 32% of all large and listed company have faced downtime in their daily operation, while 31% of SME have experienced delay in completing tasks and projects. So action being taken, close to a third of all companies are enhancing their remote working approaches with technical and connectivity support. Large and listed companies are also placing heavy emphasis of staying connected with employee. So the intervention needed, 38% of SME have prioritized application for wage subsidy, while large and least company have placed equal importance on staff upskilling, wage subsidy, and support with internet connectivity and working tools. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you. And there are any question?
Okay, thank you so much, this group. Okay, first I open for Q&A session for those who would like to ask this group. Any question regarding the accounting for COVID-19 and the impact of COVID-19 towards the financial, especially on accounting, finance and accounting.
Saya ada soalan.
Izzah. Okay. Go
Seperti
Izzah.
yang kita tahu, COVID-19, pandemik COVID-19 ni terpaksa memaksa pekerja pelbagai sektor untuk bekerja daripada rumah. Jadi, dalam konteks perakaunan, adakah masalah macam ni menjejaskan para accountant untuk diorang buat kerja diorang melalui dekat rumah lah?
Okay, so thank you Sabrina for, untuk soalan. Okay, apa yang dikaitkan COVID-19 dengan konteks perakaunan lah. So maybe at the first phase of pandemic ni, dia ada beri impact and then kepada company which is diorang terpaksa tutup operation, bukanlah kata tutup operation tetapi like a usual, like pergi ke office ke ataupun nak buat kerja work in process dia tak boleh, tetapi hanya following by online sahaja, tapi through by face to face ikut kepada pandemic situation sampai ke 2022 which is tahun ni, maybe prosedur ataupun regulation yang baru ni dapat dikeluarkan, so daripada company yang diorang dah perlu adapt lah. So diorang perlu to make sure they can normalizekan environment yang sekarang ni, which is sekarang ni kita dah masuk endemic. So kita maybe back to normal tetapi still prosedur yang dikaitkan dengan COVID-19 punya prevention. So that's all about my answer to you, Sabrina.
For me, previously it give impact, but after year 2 and year 3, nowadays actually we have to adopt all the new changes in our life and move on, use the technology, utilize the technology. We are currently in a new era, new digital era, so we have to adopt everything. All the changes happen during and after COVID-19. Okay. Now, I don't think there is an issue on work from home, on the digital era, and the utilizations of technology. Okay, next. Any question from the floor?
Sir, I got some question about the accounting for COVID-19. Apa based on yang first phase of COVID ni, kan mostly dorang buat mana yang pekerja ataupun accountant, mana-mana yang job description tu kan. So bila nak buat financial statement tu, dorang bercollaborate macam mana tu sir? Untuk nak buat official financial statement and to make a sustainability report during COVID.
Diorang tu siapa?
Which is BOD lah, management of each company, top management lah. So diorang nak bincang macam mana diorang nak buat satu financial statement berasaskan COVID-19 punya world like that.
Based on experience at the RBH Community University, there is nothing that we need to change in terms of preparing the financial statement. We are using Microsoft Teams and semua digital punya communication platform ataupun channel, we are utilizing it. And then we do like our normal preparations of financial statement. So nothing changed. Nothing changed in terms of the exercise. The difference is the difference is in terms of work from home, and then the rest tu tak ada banyak beza pun, because we are still working, we are still communicating with each other, we are still having our meeting with external auditor, and then we are doing our work, same with before COVID. The difference is physical. We can't having a physical meeting, but we change to online meeting. So tak ada banyak perubahan lah in terms of preparation of financial statement, in terms of discussion, in terms of anything related to financial statement. Maybe ada sedikit issue in terms of asset visit ke, lepas tu in terms of document, citation of document, yang tu mungkin ada problem. But because of COVID-19 dulu, some of us they can go to office alternately, or due to some urgent matters, they can come to office with limited movement. So tak ada masalah sangat lah in terms of preparation of financial statement. Preparing audited financial statement ke annual report. So semuanya kita buat sama seperti before COVID. We change kita punya methodology lah to online. We are utilizing the technology sahaja. Tadi siapa? Syafiq ke?
Yes, saya sir.
Okay, next question. Okay, siapa ada any doubt on this topic, you can ask. Takkan pada test nanti keluar soalan ni ke?
Soalan ni,
Bapak,
this topic is...
sekejap. Tengah buka aircon. Bisa je lah.
Nanti.
Tak. Ada.
Okay, any question lagi from the floor?
Tapi sir, topik ni berisu kan? So dia complicated sikit kalau saya nak faham pasal IFRS yang baru ni.
Rent concession ni sama juga macam rent concession ni memang kalau saya baca dia punya IFRS tu kadang-kadang dia confuse. Yang ni saya rasa sekarang dah kurang. Reason why is sama macam hire purchase, dia punya sewa ansuran bank, rumah, moratorium tu. Tapi this one rent concession ni dia more to company. Moratorium tu dia more to individual. This one, they more to company. So for those company yang memberi sewa ataupun menyewa. Maksudnya landlord dengan lessor and lessee tadi kan. Bila lessee tak boleh bayar sewa bulanan. Contohnya TMB. TMB ni dia sewa satu bangunan. Contohnya dua central TMB sewa the whole bangunan tu. And then when it comes to COVID, bila COVID datang dia tak mampu nak bayar sewa. So they have to go out lah. Tapi because of kalau dia nak go out, maksudnya lessor tu akan ada problem in terms of rental juga. Ini lessor lessee lah. Jadi dia ada rundingan lah sama ada lessor akan bagi discount kat lessee untuk lessee stay dekat situ. Discount ataupun extension of leasing. Ni leasing lah, contohnya hire purchase ataupun bangunan tu kita sewa, at the end of the day kita dapat bangunan tu. Dia boleh jadi juga macam rental biasa. So demi menjaga lessor and lessee ni, IFRS come out with this rent concession. Dia macam a so-called relief pelepasan ataupun discount kepada lessee, orang yang menyewa tu lah. So dia boleh extendkan dia punya. Contohnya sama macam moratorium, you beli kereta 9 tahun. So bila you opt untuk 6 bulan extension period, apa akan jadi kepada you punya total baki hutang? Sama ada dia bertambah ataupun dia just extend masa daripada 9 bulan menjadi 9 bulan setengah. Kalau you opt untuk 6 bulan holiday tu, 6 bulan tu you tak bayar sewa, dia extend another 6 month tu, dia jadi 9 tahun 6 bulan. So 6 bulan tu you tak bayar. Tapi apa jadi kepada you punya interest tu? Interest jalan tak sepanjang 6 bulan tu? Itu yang termasuk dalam FRS ni. Sama ada dia nak modify agreement tu, dia nak tukar terms dalam agreement tu menjadi 40 tahun ataupun 41 tahun. 1 tahun tambahan tak perlu bayar sewa bulanan ataupun installment bulanan. Lessor kena decide sama ada itu adalah discount ataupun pengurangan, tak perlu bayar, maksudnya ada perlu bayar tapi at a minimum amount, ataupun tak perlu bayar langsung. And then what happen kepada tenure tu, period of lessee punya period tu, loan punya period tu, adakah dia extend ataupun dia increasekan installment bulanan, ataupun dia hapuskan terus, bagi terus waiver. Yang tu. So kalau ada leasing punya agreement modify agreement leasing tu, then dia termasuk dalam yang this one lah. Kalau nothing happen, so tak ada issue. Yang ni dia bagi for company-company yang affected, yang leasing dia tu affected. Yang saya faham, leasing ni di kebanyakannya adalah leasing ni yang isu ni ialah kalau dia lease bangunan, maksudnya orang bank akan bagi loan, adakah loan tu bank akan extend ataupun tidak. Sebab bank akan dapat impact lah kalau orang tu tak bayar ataupun orang tu stop, orang tu move lease ke, orang tu bankrupt, company tu bankrupt ke, bank akan impact. So bank memberi kelonggaran di situ untuk tidak membayar rental ataupun installment bulanan. Itu general sahaja. In detail tu because kita tak belajar FAR yang detail, so this one accounting theory, kita nak fahamkan teorinya sahaja. Bahawasanya di musim COVID ni ramai orang tak mampu bayar sewa sebab office tutup dan dia kena bayar sewa kosong macam tu. Maksudnya bisnes tak jalan tapi rental still jalan. Sometimes kalau building besar, rental dia sangat banyak. Like the RB Highcom University, kita menyewa. Kita punya sewa 1.2 juta ringgit sebulan. Tapi student tak ada. Kita still kena bayar sewa 1.2 juta satu bulan. So apa kejadian itu? Kalau GDPSB, Global Development Pahang kata they out for rent concession untuk di RB Hakim University agar tidak membayar selama setahun tu, adakah agreement tu kita akan pindah? Leasing agreement tu kita pindah. Kalau kita pindah and then baru ada lease modification. Kalau dia tak pindah, dia kata you postpone je lah, nanti bila you ada duit you bayar balik. Itu jadi postpone sahaja. Next year tu dia kena bayar balik semua. Itu so called macam extend je payment tu. Yang tu dia tu leasing agreement dia tak ubah. Still the same before, during and after COVID. Ada orang dia tukar terus agreement tu, dia panjangkan tenure tu daripada 40 tahun kepada 41 tahun ataupun 42 tahun. And then interest naik. Sebab selama setahun tu you tak bayar ansuran bulanan. So bank nak dapat income macam mana? Bank punya income ialah interest daripada you. So bank akan charge juga interest tu. Tapi interest tu dikumpul bawa ke tahun-tahun akan datang. Ada soalan? Ada lagi tak soalan? Okey, kalau tak ada soalan, untuk you punya presentation ni, okay, this one is your senior punya presentation. Okay, saya boleh nampak lah ada persamaan sedikit dengan you punya senior lah. Sebagai contohnya, ada you macam adopt ke, you extract daripada you punya senior, there is no problem. You ada tukar sikit sana sikit here and there you tambah tolak. Tapi saya tak boleh bagi markah penuh full 4.5 ke 4.25 sebab dia more or less the same. Cuma you tukar-tukar sedikit. Ada certain sahaja. Dia tak banyak lah, maybe 20-30% yang sama. Untuk saya, like this one kan, understanding the significant intermediate. For me tak perlu sama pun sebab COVID-19 ni dia banyak perkara yang kita boleh share, kita boleh highlight kan dalam ni. For example, PwC snapshot on COVID-19 punya rent concession. So dia shotkan transition impact semua tu. And then KPMG dia ada contoh this concession responding to COVID-19 pandemic 2021 punya ni. So you boleh extract practical relief this one. Banyak isu-isu yang dalam ni yang you boleh extract daripada Google ni. Tak boleh means tak perlu ambil daripada you punya senior ni like 30% ke 20%. You boleh create on your own juga. So for your slide presentation ni, I'll give you 4, and then for your presentation tu I'll give you 4. So total 8. 8 marks for your group. Thank you so much. This group, nanti kita akan tengok round 4. For the time being, you punya group presentation punya markah untuk carry mark ialah 8/10. 8/10. 8 ya. So almost ada 8, 7.5, ada 8. So next 8.5 ya, boleh. You punya last presentation topic. Okay. Next group ACCA Professional Code of Ethics or any Code of Ethics punya presentation. Mar, ready ke this week?
Ready,
Today?
sir.
Okay, jom kita continue untuk
Kejap,
another
saya-
presentation. This is
Sure.
our round 4 untuk kita punya presentation. Kita akan habis kita punya presentation untuk topik sampai round 4. Round 5 dengan 6 tu nanti satu ialah you punya individual presentation, past year paper. Seorang-seorang akan present lah, kita ada 12. So seorang-seorang akan present you punya past year paper ikut kita punya contoh jawapan past year paper yang saya cuba share lah by this week, this weekend, macam mana nak jawab past year paper tu. Okay, Mardiah round 4, last round for your group presentation. You punya score ialah 8.25, 8. So sekarang ni you punya group presentation 8.25/10. So kalau today you dapat 8.5 and then you punya group presentation punya marker untuk carry mark ialah 8.5/10. Okay, I pass to you. The floor is yours.
Saya nampak tak slide? Saya rasa saya tak share lagi.
Share dalam WhatsApp group. And I remember, saya belum check lagi saya punya G Drive, belum lagi. Hopefully yang minggu cuti raya nanti saya akan check saya punya G Drive lah, semua slide presentation. You all pun belum share link dekat WhatsApp group, link YouTube you belum share lagi kat saya. And then video, saya tak sure sama ada you masukkan atau tak dalam G Drive, saya belum check lagi. Test 1, test 2 coming soon. Hopefully before raya ada satu test, after raya ada satu test. So settle lah you punya group presentation, individual assignment, test 1, test 2, and then ada backup untuk you punya accounting theory and approach. So settle untuk this semester. Okay, jom.
Boleh
Okay,
nampak tak
professional.
video?
Boleh nampak?
Okay. Saya play sir.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. I bid to everyone. So for today's presentation, our group will be presenting on the topic Professional Code of Ethics or SCCA Code of Ethics. So this is our team members, which is first Dini and me, Mardia. So for today's outline, the first is overview of professional ethics. The second one is safeguards. The third one is quality control. And then the summary and last one is questions. So next, I will pass to Dini.
Okay, thank you, Mardia. Okay, for the first one is the overview of professional ethics. Okay, for first, they have origins of professional ethics. Means ethics is from a Greek word, which is the ethos, and meaning is character. It is focused on the rights and wrong of the human behavior. For example, is how people behave toward one another. Okay, from this professional ethics, which is they represent a commitment by a profession to ethical principle, which is a rule of which is they will have conduct. And then the standard of behavior will have both, which is the idealistic and practical. Okay, importance of professional ethics, which is the professional accountant, they will have a responsibility to act in a public interest. The purpose to assurance the engagement to increase the confidence and the intended user. And then they need to trust the professional auditor who are providing the assurance. From this, they will advise others should have the integrity, objectivity, and act in the best interest to their client, which is regardless whether they have the client in knowledge. Okay. This assurance, they provide the auditor need to be independent of their client, which is there has been a decline in the standard business in the view of the corporate scandal, which is they will have a show that accounting fraternity, which is the example for the Enron case, WorldCom, SH Insurance, and the Parmalat case. The second one is the public has become more aware, which is due to the significant coverage to the media and realize that we have the failure of the legal regulatory system. Okay, the next slide. Okay, for the SCCA Code of Ethics and Conduct, it is too applicable that to all the members in the public practice business as well as the affiliates and registered student. Okay, from this, the member must apply this conceptual framework to identify the threats to compliance and with the principle to evaluate their significance and apply this appropriate safeguard to eliminate or reduce them to the compliance in is not compromised. Okay, the next slide. Okay, for the code of ethics, first is the integrity. It is the professional accountant have a straightforward, honest, truthful, and have the fair, which is dealing to their all professionals and a business relationship. For example, this accountant will be prepared the financial statement, which is they reflect the true and fair view of the financial position, and this will be the result of the company. Okay, and second one is the objectivity. Is the professional accountant will not allow the prejudice or the bias, conflict of interest, or the undue influence, which is their this which is with other override of professional judgment. For example, from this, an accountant must not accept the assignment as an advisor for two rival company with their competing for the same tender. Kat sini, accountant tak boleh terima lebih daripada dua companies untuk elak daripada persaingan kat sini untuk terima tender. Okay, but the third one is the professional competence and the due care. From this, they have a duty which is to maintain their professional knowledge and the skill at the level required, which is from this they will not accept, which is to perform work with their not competence to undertake the unless assistant to obtain. So dekat sini professional accountant tu tidak boleh ambil sesuka hati dia punya pekerjaan tu. Dia perlu melalui satu proses iaitu dia under continuous professional development, which is CPDS. Okay, the accountant also will be act diligently and in accordance with the applicable technical and the professional standard. Okay, the next is the confidentiality. From this, a professional accountant will be repeat the confidentiality of information acquired and should not disclose any such information. Kat sini accountant adalah dilarang sama sekali untuk diberitahu pada pihak lain, iaitu pihak ketiga atau orang luar untuk informasi yang dia orang terima daripada company, daripada customer yang dia terima. Okay, for the last one is the professional behavior, is to avoid any action that discredit the profession, which is kat sini accountant tak boleh sama sekali untuk kritik atau untuk ambil kredit atas accountant dekat company lain. Okay, untuk memperoleh daripada keuntungan pada diri dia sendiri. Okay, for the next slide. Okay, the next slide is confidentiality. It's the professional duty of confidentiality. First is to disclose in full all information relevant to an engagement. For second one, they will acquire information in the course of their professional work. Third, they should not consider law or consider it necessary in the public interest to disclose detail to the client affair for the third party. Sama macam tadi saya terangkan. Okay, in three, they will have three general rules. First is the auditor should explain to their client that they will not only act, they will only act to the client who agree to disclose to all the information relevant to an engagement. Okay, second one, the auditor acquiring information the cost of their professional work, which is they will use the information for their personal advantage or advantage to the third party. Second is disclose any such information to the third party without first obtaining permission from their client. Maksud kat sini, dia kena memberitahu terlebih dahulu pada pihak ketiga dia sebelum dia sebelum dia meminta izin, meminta izin daripada klien dia sendiri. Dia tidak boleh. Okay. But the third one is auditor in a business should remember that their client for the purpose of these rules in their employer, which is the employer mean to ensure they have no leak in information. Okay. Next is the exemption to the above rule are as follow, which is first the obligatory. They comply by the process of law, which is they will have to under the court order. Okay, this is also for the suspect that client is committing a terrorized offence. Okay, second one is the voluntary, which is to protect the auditor interest. For example, when the auditor is involved in the litigation, they with the client, and for the recovery of the fees when the faced with the disciplinary action by the professional body. Okay, for the next slide. Okay, for the traits, which is first is the familiarity. This auditor are predisposed to the accept or insufficiently questioning the client points of view. From this, there we have example, which is the close of or the immediate familiar relationship with the director or the office of the client. From this, a former auditor will be a partner, being a director, office, or an employee. And second one is they will have accepting the expensive gift, which is unless the value to the nominal. So dekat sini familiarity, kat sini auditor tidak boleh sama sekali dia lah orang yang audit di antara dia dikenali daripada director dia, daripada company yang dia nak buat audit. Okay. Second one is the advocacy, which is this member advocating their client's position, which means they will promoting the share of a listed audit client. And second one is acting as an advocate on a behalf of a client in resolving the dispute with the third party. Okay, so third one is a self-interest, which is this auditor have a financial, which is or other interest will be the making the reluctant to the action that will be adverse to the audit firm, which is the any individual in a position to influence the outcome of the audit. First example is the financial interest, which is a client where the result of the professional survey will be affect the value of the interest. Second one is the loans, which is from a client, overdue fees, concerning the possibility of client closing the client. They will have also potential employment with the client, and they will accepting the gift, which is unless the value is nominal and extended. Last is the competing directly with the client, which is in the joint venture. Okay, the next is the self-review, which is self-review is a result of a non-audit service performed by the auditor or the colleges. Okay, from this, they will have discovered in a significant error, which is they are during the re-evaluation. Okay, the reporting on the system where the firm has been involved in their design and implementation. Okay, the last is the director or the officer of the client to or an employer in executive position by the client, which is their direct or influence on the engagement. Okay, the next slide is the intimidation. It's a conduct is influenced by the fear or threat, which is the FASSI. In this, threatened with the dismissal or a replacement in an engagement. Okay, the second one is a litigation by the audit client, and the third one is the pressure, which is they will reduce the extent of work required to reduce their fee, which is audit firm ni dia akan comply dengan keuntungan dengan duit yang dia dapat fee capping tu daripada 15%, dia orang akan dapat dia orang akan tolak dengan gross practice dia orang income, maksudnya dalam 2 consecutive year. Okay, but the next is management decision. Is auditor should only provide the advice, which is the management make the management decision in their duty. Maksudnya management itu akan buat keputusan itu sendiri, bukan melibatkan auditor. Okay, auditor tu hanya provide advice. Yang selebihnya management akan buat keputusan. auditor tidak boleh sama sekali berurusan untuk decision diorang. Okay, public practice behavior, which is inappropriate marketing of professional service and a product, which is they will have acceptance of an inappropriate client. For example, the illegal acts. Okay, for the next slide. Okay, for the trace to fundamental principle, which is the FASSI, for this, the familiarity is they will have an adult client for an extent for the period of the time which they may create a familiarity trait. And it is also a possible safeguard for the firm, which is they will have audit partner every 5 years for public interest and audit team members every 2 to 3 years. So dekat sini untuk mengelakkan ancaman yang berlaku, dia orang akan ubah dia punya audit partner dia selama selepas 5 tahun, setiap 5 tahun. Okay, paling kurang pun dalam 7 tahun. And audit team dia akan ubah setiap 2 atau 3 tahun. Macam dia orang akan ubah dari segi dia punya macam mana cakap dia punya urusan dia, structure dia. Okay, the third one, second one is the advocacy, which is it arises from the situation where the firm is promote a position or the opinion to the point that subsequent objectivity is impaired, which is they are commenting publicly on a future events in a particular circumstance. And second one is acting as an advocate on the future events and on behalf of the audit client, litigation and dispute with the third party. And second one, they will have a promoting a share of a listed client. Okay, for the third one is self-interest. Will it include financial interest in a client, employment with an audit client. Third one is temporary assignment of an audit staff to client, and they have a high percentage of the fee, the overdue fee, and the partner on their client work, and also the gift and hospitality and conflict of interest. And last one is the contingent fees. Okay, for the four is the staff review, which is they will have a recent service with an audit client. Second one is the preparing the accounting records and the financial statement. Third one is the provision of other service to the client. Okay, for the last one is the intimidation, which is the member of audit team deterred from acting objectivity by the trade, which is they will have a actual or the perceived one. Okay, for the have example, which is the client, which is they have threatened to sue or does sue the audit work from previously, and the firm will face with the risk of the losing the client in bad publicity. Okay, next slide. Okay, impact. The next slide, the fourth slide. The before slide, Nadia. Oh, using the framework tak ada. Okay, for the using the framework, which is that they will have to identify the trait, which is dia orang akan kena pasti dulu dia punya ancaman. Okay, for the second one, they will evaluate the trait. Maksud dekat sini, dia orang akan proses, akan meneliti dulu keputusan yang dia orang akan buat, which is they will action in a required as the trait in a significant. Last is they will have apply the safeguard, which is to eliminate or reduce the trait to acceptable the level. Which is dekat sini, dia orang akan kurangkan dan buang yang mana yang ancaman dia orang akan peroleh daripada level baik dia punya stage. Okay, for the next slide. For the impact of not being independent, which is this, if auditor is not being independent. Okay, for the we have a quality of work diminished. Is from this, they will have a proceed the evidence of work performed is reduced. What is they will have auditor may form a wrong opinion. Next is they have an auditor may be liable for their negligence. Auditor may be subjected to disciplinary action. And last, we will have auditor may lose his license to practice. Mungkin ada akan hilang lesen dia untuk buat audit. next. Okay, for the safeguarding auditor is independent, which is they also have the conflict of interest. Okay, next. Okay, safeguarding auditor independent differs by profession, legislation, and regulation. Which is the profession places stringent requirement for entry into the profession, which is that we have ensuring the member is compliant with the continuing professional and the development, which is that we have a corporate governance and professional standard by monitoring and disciplining the procedure that they process there. Okay. Second one is the rotation of auditor appointment. From this, the client will be a continual change of audit staff, which is a new team of audit staff in their have a recruiting audit will be raised queries to the staff. Okay, they have the high cost recruiting, which is in the first year of audit when there is a change in the audit firm. From this, the background information of the client will be prior of the convenience of the audit, which is and the result in a higher audit fees in the first year. Okay, next. Okay, conflict of interest between the difference of the client. Which is from this, a conflict of interest can arise when a firm has two or more audit clients. And second one, they will have a company which is in direct competition with each other. Okay, second, auditor have their access to particularly in a sensitive information. Okay, last is the threatened objectivity and their confidentiality. Okay, the next slide. I will pass to Mardia.
All right. Thank you, Dini. Okay, so for the next part is the quality control or quality control measures. So there are few elements in the quality control measures which offers professional requirement. So for its policy, personnel in the firm should adhere to the ethical principles like what Dini had mentioned before, which is first integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. So for the procedures, assign responsibility to provide guidance and to resolve questions on matters of integrity, communicate to staff new policies and procedures on independence, monitor compliance with policies and ensure safeguards and procedures relating to independence are maintained. So for the second element is the skills and competencies. So the firm is to be staffed by personnel who attain and maintain the technical standards and professional competence required to enable them to fulfill their responsibilities with due care. So the procedure, which is personnel needs establish hiring objectives and determine requisite qualifications, establish qualifications for evaluating potential personnel to be hired at each professional level, establish guidelines and requirements, continuing professional development, and lastly, make available to personnel any information about new professional pronouncements. So next is the assignment. Audit work is to be assigned to personnel who have the degree of technical training and proficiency required in the circumstances. And the procedures are plan staff level requirements for the firm as a whole and for individual practice officers and designated persons to assign personnel to audits and audit partners to approve the scheduling and also staffing. And then delegations, sufficient direction, supervision, and review of work at all levels to provide reasonable assurance that the work performed complies with standards and also quality. And the procedures are to establish procedures for planning audits, provide procedures for maintaining the firm's quality standards, and also provide on-the-job training. And then we have consultation. Whenever necessary, consultation within or outside the audit firm is to occur with those who have appropriate expertise. And the procedures are identify areas and specialized situations where consultation is required and inform personnel. And then designate individuals as specialists for consultative processes and also specify the extent of documentation for the results of consultation. And then we have acceptance and retention of client, which is the policy is to evaluate and prospective clients and conduct a review on an ongoing basis for existing clients. And the procedures are establish criteria to evaluate prospective clients and also to establish review procedures for existing clients. And the last one is monitoring, which is monitoring the adequacy and effectiveness of quality control policies as well as procedures. And the procedures are define the scope and contents of monitoring and provide findings to appropriate management level in the firm. So these are the summaries that what can we conclude from the presentation. So there are 5 fundamentals of a SCCA Code of Ethics, which is first integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, and also confidentiality, and lastly, professional behavior. Sorry. So these are the importance of professional ethics, which is first, responsibility to act in the public interest and to increase the confidence of the intended users. All right, so in the Code of Ethics, there are also conflict of interest, which is it will arise when a firm has 2 or more audit clients, both of which have reasons to be unhappy that their auditors are also the auditors of the other company. And then when the companies are in direct competition with each other. And lastly, the auditors have access to particularly sensitive information. And then there are also threats to fundamental principles, which is we can easily remember using the phrase FASI, which is first, familiarity, advocacy, self-interest, self-review, and the last one is intimidation. So the last part is professional duty of confidentiality. Auditors are refrained from disclosing information acquired in the course of professional work. These are the rules for this, which is first only act for those clients who agree to disclose in full all information that is which are relevant. And then the auditor should also not use the information for their personal advantage, and then should not disclose any such information to third parties without first obtaining permission. And the last one is auditors in business should remember that their client for the purpose of these rules is their own employer. Okay. So there are also exceptions to the rules that I've mentioned, which is first obligatory, which is compelled by the process of law, and the last one is voluntary, which is to protect the auditor's interest. For example, when an auditor is involved in litigation with their own client. So next we move to the questions. So basically we don't find any past year paper regarding this topic. So we just pick any general question from the internet. So for the first is list 5 fundamentals of professional ethics. So we repeatedly mention these fundamentals. So you guys can actually remember this already after the presentation. So firstly is the integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality and professional behavior. So these are the 5 fundamentals of professional ethics that you guys must remember. And then the second question is, what are the ethical implications of whistleblowing? So for answering this question, which we have to know what are the definition of whistleblowing itself. So whistleblowing refers to the actions of insiders in a business venture who raise public awareness about activities inside the business. Certain types of whistleblowing are legally protected to encourage calling out of objectionable practices to the public. So whistleblowing ni dia salah satu action lah untuk macam dia nak, macam contoh je saya jadi whistleblower untuk kita raise awareness from the public. Contoh saya tahu pasal this secret of company yang macam ada tipu duit orang ke apa ke kan. So saya akan jadi whistleblower untuk bagi tahu, untuk make sure like bagi awareness lah macam oh don't invest in this company because this is the scammer ke whatsoever lah. So that is the basically what is whistleblowing is all about. And then how it works, whistleblowing ni actually they serve to protect the public at large from harm but involve the betrayal of trust and privacy. So basically whistleblowing ni dia sometimes is from the company itself. So whistleblowing ni dia bagi benefit for the public because they are telling the truth, but then they dianggap sebagai betrayal lah sebab diorang macam dah leak what is confidential to the public which is belongs to the company. And then untuk menjawab soalan ni, which is the ethical implications of whistleblowing. So whistleblowing is thus a fraud ethical area where individuals have to weigh whether speaking out the truth is more important than protecting confidential information of the company, violating contracts and acting in a dishonest fashion. And then many companies have processes to mitigate these ethical issues, and federal rules can prevent government or companies from retaliating against a whistleblower. So bagi company, diorang rasa yang whistleblower ni macam apa fraud action lah, macam salah lah bagi diorang sebab diorang dah leak confidential punya information of that company, but actually it somehow giving benefit for the public itself, but they are telling the truth. So they want to gain awareness from the public. So I think that all the answer for this question. So I think that's all from us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mar and Dini. Okay, now I open for Q&A session dulu. For those yang nak tanya soalan, you can ask question to this group. Any question from the floor?
Saya ada soalan.
Siapakah nama?
Sabrina.
Sabrina. Okay, Sabrina.
Okay. Can any of you two give you other reasons of why ethics are important for accounting?
Saya jawab sir.
Okay,
So soalan Sabrina dia kata apa sebab kita orang letak sikit je kan importance kenapa ethics tu penting untuk accounting, so saya tambah sikit lah dia punya reason. So first, bila kita cakap pasal accounting ni dia melibatkan accountant lah kan, obviously, and then accountant ni dia deals with the financial information of a business entity, which is kita consider as sensitive information lah bila kita cakap pasal financial information. Itu yang first. So sebab dia sebab accountant tu dia deal dengan sensitive information of a company, and then bila yang kedua, kepentingan kenapa ethics tu penting. So contohlah kalau ada apa-apa terjadi dekat orang punya account of company tu, so orang yang bertanggungjawab tu adalah accountant tu sendirilah, sebab tu penting untuk kita adanya ethics ataupun code of conduct untuk profession ni lah, accounting ataupun auditor. And then satu lagi, bila kita adanya ethics untuk accountant ni, sebenarnya kita nak jaga profession accountant tu sendiri. So that macam public tak adalah macam bagi tanggapan yang macam accountant ni tak boleh pakai lah, macam yelah sebab benda ni kan penting kan. Bila kita cakap pasal account, kita ada kita punya users, external user, internal user. So sebab itulah pentingnya profession accountant ni, and then pentingnya untuk ada ethics of accountant ni sendiri. Menjawab tak?
Menjawab. Thank you, Mar.
Okay, kita ada creative accounting, kita ada fraudulent financial statement, kita ada forensic accounting and financial criminology, kita ada earning quality, earning management, ada semua tu kita kena jaga. So code of ethic ni is crucial lah for all of us dalam accounting punya dan juga bidang-bidang lain. Termasuklah kita punya lawyer Citybiner ni. Okay. Next. Soalan. Ada lagi 3 soalan. Izzah 2, Syafiq Reza 1. Adanya? Okay, thank you to this group. So you dah habis you punya final round untuk you punya presentation. Round terakhir.
Betul, sir.
Bila I tengok balik you punya presentation ni, udah round keempat ni, I dah satisfy ya. Saya dah satisfy you punya presentation ni. So 4 kali 4 round ni you punya slide tu makin okay. Which is yang ni je kurang sebab you tulis banyak sangat dalam kotak ni. The rest tu okay. Which is saya dah okay lah, dah berpuas hati dengan you punya slide presentation ni. Dia dah nampak macam dah boleh inilah, dah boleh membuat slide presentation yang bermarkah tinggi. Satisfied dengan slide presentation you. Presentation ni tak boleh beat lagi Siti Syakira Zafira, but okay, tak ada masalah. So for this last round ni, you punya last round punya markah is 4.5 untuk slide and 4.25 untuk presentation. So you punya carrying mark ni 8.5, ni 8. 8.25 dengan 8. So you punya carrying mark dekat sini ialah 8.75. 8.75. So dah habis you punya group presentation. Ini adalah you punya carrying mark je lah untuk carrying mark 40%. So the rest nanti saya akan update sampai habis you punya group presentation. Next ialah both of you boleh fokus on video dan juga individual presentation. Video ni saya nak 5% sebab itu adalah tulang kita, tulang accounting theory and practice subject. Memang kita belajar accounting theory and all approaches, semua rules, regulation semua. Yang tu memang kita punya bone, kita punya fish bone kita. And then this one kita perlukan video. 5% individual ialah pasir paper presentation, one pasir paper you kena present, buat video pun boleh, buat video dulu pun boleh, and then you present. Test 1, test 2. So total ialah 40%. Okay, dia baru 2 ada carry mark, nanti kita akan bagi lagi update sampai update carry mark ni lah. Bonus mark nanti saya akan update dekat sini. Yang ni nanti saya akan update lah. Untuk hari ni ada 3 orang tanya soalan. So nanti bonus mark ni saya akan guna bila carry mark you nak dapat A kurang 2 markah ataupun you punya final exam tu dia akan kurang 2 markah. So itulah kegunaan bonus mark ni. Kalau cantum you punya carry mark dengan final exam nanti contohnya you dapat 78 markah. 78 tu A minus, 80 tu A. So 2 markah tu dia penentu dia adalah bonus mark. Sama ada saya nak bagi you A minus ataupun A. Sebab itu lecturer punya consideration lah untuk bagi markah tambahan 2 itu. Kalau 73, 68, 63, nak naik 65. Tu semua kita akan tengok balik lah you punya bonus mark. Biasanya bonus mark lah sebab soalan-soalan yang akan ditanya masa you punya presentation tu. Nanti saya akan update. Kalau ada satu tinggal tu you inform balik. Ni this one is your carry mark. So group ni jangan lupa send you punya video dengan link you punya presentation ni kepada kawan-kawan you masuk dalam YouTube.
Dah ada dah saya upload dekat YouTube. Kena share link dekat WhatsApp group ke macam mana?
Share link dia dekat WhatsApp group.
Nanti subscribe tau.
Nanti saya
Dah tak gurau je.
subscribe semua. Jangan lupa tekan tombol loceng, subscribe, and comment and like. Okay, thank you. Next presentation sebab kita akan cuti hari raya. So minggu depan saya cuba untuk completekan 2 presentation. So you all nak rayasakan tahun ni, tahun ketiga bersama COVID. So you akan berayasakan. So mungkin kita akan habis kita punya chapter ni sebelum hari raya. Yang ni dah settle. Hari Selasa money laundering dengan Malaysia Code of Corporate Governance dan juga Corporate Governance Report, Islamic Accounting ni. Hari ni double Malaysian Code ni double kan. Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance. Okay, ni double. Saya cuba cari satu lagi topik ni. Nanti saya cuba cari satu lagi topik ni. So dia double, dia redundant kat sini kan. Malam ni saya pun cuba cari topik yang satu lagi. So kita akan habiskan semua group presentation ni. Saya cuba untuk habiskan sebelum hari raya. So lepas you cuti satu minggu hari raya, lepas tu terus kita pergi kat individual presentation. Sampai you punya final exam bermula 25 Mei. 25 Mei, 25, 26, 27. Saya dah bagi tentatif, saya ada 3 subjek. 3 subjek tu 25, 26, 27 Mei. Sebab presentation ni saya rasa okey lah, akan habis sebelum 23, 25 Mei. Dia punya final exam start 25. Saya bagi hari tu, yang last tu Mei kan? Rasa you punya 25 Mei ni. Sebab you punya ramai kan? Bukan, 25 Mei. 25 Mei you punya exam. Final exam. Tapi final exam officially 3 jam. Saya punya saya akan bagi 5 jam. 1 jam awal, 1 jam lewat. So 8 hingga 1. So 5 soalan tu, 1 soalan 1 jam. You akan jawab. Saya rasa okey, 5 jam tu okey. Selepas hari raya, boleh makan minum semua, 5 jam, kita panggil dia final exam. Sebab kena submit hari yang sama. Okey, carry mark you, saya target semua orang sepatutnya 30 ke atas. Minimum 30 per 40 minimum. Okey, jumpa hari Selasa minggu depan, Selasa dan Selasa dan Khamis. Kita cuba settlekan kita punya round 4, kita completekan kita punya group presentation dan semua akan dapat markah group presentation. 9 ada soalan. Okey, soalan.
Macam tu yang individual presentation pasal paper tu kan, giliran ikut yang dalam carry mark group presentation tu ke macam mana sir?
Giliran you cabut je lah undi sama-sama you tu.
Okay, kira siapa nak present dulu present lah macam tu.
Siapa yang nak present dulu present, tak ada markah bonus untuk tambahan, cuma markah bonus kita akan bagi kepada orang yang tanya soalan. So kalau siapa-siapa nak soalan, nak dapat 78 ke 80 tu, you tanya soalan banyak-banyak. Yang lain tak ada markah, siapa present dulu, siapa present kemudian. Janji presentation tu ada orang, you cabut undi lah. Mungkin satu hari tu mungkin maksimum pun paling banyak pun 4 sahaja satu hari. 4 orang present. Paling banyak lah setengah jam dengan komen. So akan ada 3 kali. 3 kali kelas tu 4 orang. Lepas tu habis. Individual. Lepas tu the rest tu tak ada presentation lah. Kalau ada pun saya akan mengajar untuk you punya final exam. Okey, ada soalan lain? Saya hutang satu topik ni. Saya carikan topik dia. Okey, thank you semua. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you semua. See you. Selamat berpuasa.
Thank you, sir. Sir, ni dekat scorecard tu, saya dengan Syarul